The scrolling shooter genre. Often referred to as shmups for shoot-em-ups, they usually offer an action game that can be picked up for short shots of adrenaline or obsessed over for years as you carefully hone your skills and do just a little better each time you play. I personally cut my teeth on many of these through the years, including Life Force, UN Squadron, and Super Swift, just to name a few. A genre that is represented on just about every console and system ever released. The games being thrown on the pile here is just a small slice of what's out there that I've picked up over the years. There are some really good ones I keep coming back to, and just like any genre of games, there are some that are average at best. Welcome back to Rick's Random Retro, where we like the odds of being a single pilot versus an alien armada. Or generic bad guys, it doesn't matter, we just need things to shoot. So the favorite of mine here you probably saw in the title of the video is Axelay. Made by Konami and released in 1992, it was originally intended to be a Japan exclusive title, but was later released to the rest of the world following consumer requests. And boy am I thankful for that, as otherwise I might have missed out on this gem of a title altogether. Featuring some truly epic artwork gives you an idea what you're in for. So let's fire up our trusty Super Nintendo and check it out. If that old school Konami intro doesn't give you a shot of pure nostalgia, I don't know what will. 90s Konami is good Konami, thank you very much. As we transition into the intro here, giving us a much needed backstory to truly understand the motivation our lone pilot has, I will mention a couple of things. First, this is captured straight from the SNES you saw earlier, so it may not be quite as sharp as say an emulator, but it feels more genuine to me. Plus I'm using an S-video cable which does produce quite a nice image. If you have a SNES and a TV with S-video input, the $10 the cable costs is a very worthwhile investment to give the console a nice bump in output quality over your standard composite option. As for that story, well, aliens invaded your home solar system and you certainly don't like that. Fortunately, as we'll see, they brought with them a huge arsenal of completely expendable spaceships for you to tear through with your hilariously overpowered ship when you think about it. I was gonna cut the intro, but it's just so good we'll let it finish before we dive into the game. Alright, so Axelay. The game has a couple of big things that break away from your standard scrolling space shooters. The first being that there are no power-ups in the game itself. Instead, at the start of each mission, you get to pick your weapon loadout. Each weapon serves a different purpose, and you don't have much to pick as you start out. However, as you play the game, you unlock a new weapon at the start of each stage.
Arms installation is complete. Good luck.
As we're thrust into the game's first stage, the most obvious thing here is that holy cow, that's a lot of Mode 7 parallax scrolling going on. This is the top-down version of this game, so keep that in mind as we move to the next stage shortly. This is presumably set on your homeworld as you fight off the alien invaders. And notice the weapon selection in the top right corner where your loadout is displayed. You can switch between the 3 weapon options at any time using the shoulder buttons on your controller, but I won't go through every weapon, but I pretty much abuse the second option here, which is the side-shooting laser. Nearly mandatory for some parts of the game as it lets you fire in really any direction depending on how long you keep the buttons pushed. If you take a hit during gameplay, that weapon goes offline, removing it until you either beat the stage or lose your ship altogether. It does give you some options and removes the sometimes tedious part of other shooters where if you lose a life, you're back to square one trying to collect the power-ups you need again. Jump into stage 2, whoa, hey now, the game is a side-scroller instead. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the game alternates between being a top-down and a side-scrolling shooter. Instead of the previous Mode 7 effect, we're now treated to some gorgeous pixel art graphics, truly up there with the best of the 16-bit era. Personal opinion, of course, keep it civil in the comment section. This stage is set on the space station, presumably in orbit around the first level. With the perspective switch, your tactics may have to change a bit, however my preference for the side-shooting laser remains, and I use that crutch as much as I can. In fact, the side-scrolling stages nearly require the use of it, so you don't get attacked from every direction. Now's a good time to bring up the fact that I simply love the music in this game. Listen to that awesome 16-bit bass line. Amazing. As you continue to work your way through the game, it does get progressively harder, as it should, but you also unlock more weapon options. Not all of them great, as sure enough I still end up always picking the side-shooting laser, but some other ones show up later in the game that help out quite a bit. As mentioned before, you don't have to worry so much about collecting power-ups, so should you make a mistake and lose a life, you're essentially back to full strength. It's really a nice change of pace from games where you make one mistake, you have to claw your way back to even stand a chance, as the game is usually balanced to fight you at full power. With that missing here, it gives a pretty smooth difficulty curve. The music you're hearing in the background is a phenomenal remix of the Lava Stage music by remixer BrainCells. It's an old one but still holds up great. I'll put a link in the description below if you want to check it out. The game does feature some pretty surreal sections, especially later in the game. The atmosphere here is pretty thick as you plunge toward the final boss, not knowing quite what to expect. Oh, and speaking of bosses, oh yeah, it has those as well. We've got your massive robot spiders, Robocop-inspired walkers with miniguns, and huge lava dudes. It has them all. So, what can you take away from this game after you beat it? It's probably pretty obvious watching this that I do really love this game. It's tough but fair, doesn't penalize you too much for making mistakes, and really walks that line between challenge and frustration. It has a terrific atmosphere between the level and enemy designs. Couple that together with an awesome soundtrack and gorgeous graphics, you get a very well-rounded package. A game I'll come back to again and again just to play through. As far as things I wish were a bit better, it'd probably be the weapon selection. At least for my playstyle, I gravitate toward the spreader type weapons, as there's simply too many enemies coming at you from directions your forward-facing weapons can't reach. Using those forward-facing weapons bump up the difficulty quite a bit, at least for me. As it's also 100% linear, there isn't much direct replay value besides attempting to challenge the harder difficulties. That's pretty usual for this genre, but perhaps a branching mission set with different options would have extended the life of the game a bit. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this look at a classic shmup from the Konami Golden Age. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe to keep up to date on future videos. If you like classic racing games instead, perhaps check out this 90s PC title. This is Rick, thank you very much for watching, and remember everyone, stay classy.